Gelekile. On behalf of the rapporteur crew, I'm not here alone. I stand here comprised of the rapporteur team. Our lead at Tshireletso Mohlafuno. Our lead Tshireletso Mohlafuno, Umali Kholokwe, my two accompanying rapporteurs, Uleletu Busakwe, Umanchange, and Uzizibobota, Umamtolo. Our aides, Uthando Letu Gxowa, Umadikela, no Avumile Monti, Uchonyane. Nonke ke namkelekile nonke apha kweli khaya endiyathemba na ukuziva nikhululekile kwaye nifudumele. Uyanamkela ke uMaduna, uNokhala, uGubevu, uNkabinde, uMsutukazi, uMandla Makhulu. I'm positioning now the audience to the rationale behind why we are here, right? Why did Beyond Zero invite us to this workshop? Divumeleni to remind you, to remind everyone who came from all over the country, specifically from 7 of the provinces that Beyond Zero operates in. Together, here in the gorgeous Hemingway's Hotel, and those joining us online by Beyond Zero's invitation to the Best Practice Workshop, #Beyond Implementation. We are here because Beyond Zero thought it would be great to host you with the objective to, 1, showcase, engage, and recognize the role of its programs and partners in championing HIV prevention programs for key and priority population initiatives through shared knowledge and skill building, where attendees will amplify their work and contribute to a compendium of best practices. So the aims of this 2.5-day workshop, dissemination workshop, were based on the documentation and dissemination of best practices among sub-recipients, civil society organizations, and community-based organizations, with the specific aims to provide a platform for advocacy, produce and exchange knowledge sharing through all, foster networking and collaboration among delegates in HIV prevention programs. And those aims were met with objectives to capacitate implementation partners, dissemination, to foster dissemination of best practices, development of practical and effective intervention models, tools, approaches, and adjustable strategies from CBOs. Capacity development, equip human resources with the relevant tools and knowledge needed to improve program design and implementation. To drive and facilitate HIV, TB, and STI preparedness and management to community members and key populations. To foster collaboration, develop opportunities and platforms for networking, partnerships, and knowledge creation and exchange between organizations and stakeholders. Interdisciplinary collaboration for a holistic improvement of public health services and structure, and to promote human rights and advocacy. The emphasis was on the importance and relevance of human rights standards and the importance of respect and inclusion program developments with particular relevance to marginalized key population. And this is in efforts to drive implementation. It's also to facilitate the development of action plans that CBOs can use to scale up best practices and therefore mass impact. And so how did Beyond Zero plan to achieve these aims? The following enlisted are their objectives. Through interactive sessions, presentations, and workshops, the dissemination workshop sought to empower SR, CSO, and CBOs and all delegates with the necessary skills and knowledge to effectively document their work, write impactful abstracts, and disseminate information to a wider audience. To facilitate knowledge sharing and learning among delegates, and this was done through sessions which included the following objective: disseminate best practices, share successful models among each other, and that is the implementing partners and the researchers, and the community as well as the beneficiaries, right? approaches and strategies from CBOs that work with adolescent youth, key populations, and in promoting human rights. And also, again, to enhance capacity. They equipped participants with the tools and knowledge needed to improve program design and implementation in Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Gauteng, Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, and foster collaboration through creating opportunities for networking. And finally, to drive action, to facilitate the development of action plans that CBOs can use to scale up best practices and improve their impact. With that said, Beyond Zero thought that I would be the best partner that we would be the best reporting partners to capture this in real time and to narrate it all back to you, which is an absolute honor for me, and this is why I stand before you today. So thank you, BZ, for trusting me with this assignment. My name is Vukazi Mioli, and I'm your rapporteur for the day. My role here is to narrate the story as it is, how we captured it from day one up until now. So I'm going to ask the IT guys to please project my PowerPoint. My PowerPoint presentation, please. Okay, it's fine. They can just. Okay, so I'm going to go through the event, the workshop overview. We had workshops, we had the people who participated in our midst, we had government officials and the implementing partners. And the key themes that were central to the integration of the key themes that were spoken about were central to the integration of health services, stigma reduction, and healthcare system strengthening and equity in access for key and priority populations and the community at large. A quote by Dr. Sasanda Gaga also affirmed this when she said, "This workshop is a space for reflection, learning, and inspiration." To set the scene for you, day one, the highlights for day one was during the registration process when the organizers were busy sorting out delays. Kwaqhuma ingoma zesiXhosa. There were also imbongi on site, and the people who attended, the delegates, saw that as an opportunity for camaraderie and rapport building and harmony through singing and praise poets. Ms. Duma opened for us, and the presenters collectively of all the formative sessions all affirmed that we are here to turn insights into evidence and evidence into action. Day two, in the morning, delegates sang songs again. The opening plenary highlights were facilitated by Mr. Amugelani Maluleka, and followed by Ms. Sheila Mbele. And there's a quote by her which we found to be very powerful and all-encompassing, which said, "Beyond Zero has restored dignity and inspired future generation." The key discussions were by Dr. Jafta, where she took us through the integration of HIV and cancer. The highlights were that we need to focus on patient-centered approaches, such as early screening for cervical cancer in HIV-positive women. She said, integration, to quote, "Integration isn't just a policy goal, it's a patient need." followed by a session on reproductive health and teenage pregnancy, where she was highlighting the alarming rates of teenage pregnancies in rural areas like in Tabankulu, dispelling the contraceptive myths and increasing education through community dialogues. She also gave us...
Sorry about that. You're not going to see me again. One person that is supposed to go with the shuttle is missing one person. If you know, you're supposed to be on the 11:45 shuttle. Yeah, 11:45 shuttle, one person who might not have a name. If you're not going, just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. She also gave us insight on the 27 pregnancies reported in one high school during 2024, which is an alarming rate. Dr. Mzi and Dr. Mjali capacitated, gave us a session on capacity building for implementers called the Abstract Clinic. There, they train participants to write field experiences into research outputs. They also encouraged implementers to share best practices and publish abstract. Dr. Tinyuka Chauka and Ms. Dr. Kanoko Duka gave us insight on exploring topics around exploring the mental health toll of COVID-19 and its implications for HIV care. The stress on proactive strategies for future pandemics, addressing the overlap of HIV, TB, and cancer care as key highlights. Running a successful CSO with specific focus was run by Dr. Simon Bakanyane. The key discussions around day 2. Community-led solutions, social and behavioral change communication, SBCC. They touched on tailoring messages to combat stigma and myths to improve HIV testing and increasing PrEP awareness. So here they were making a lot of emphasis around the way in which these are communicated. They also gave us some stats on HIV awareness, which remains low. There was a session on stigma reduction and inclusive care, where it touched on the persistent stigma faced by the community of LGBTIQ plus populations and sex workers in accessing healthcare. They touched on advocacy for peer-led inclusive healthcare environments as well. There's a quote that they highlighted, which was all-encompassing as well for this day too, which is, quote, breaking stigma starts with listening to the stories we don't want to hear. They touched on youth engagement and safe spaces and the expansion of youth zones to reduce stigma and to improve health services access for adolescents. For example, the Buffalo City Youth Zones, which reported higher ART initiation rates post-implementation. Session on climate change and healthcare access examined the impact of climate-induced displacement on healthcare access. Sustainable health solutions such as tree-lined clinic routes for better accessibility. And they quoted, health systems must be as resilient as the communities they serve. And the session on collaborative approaches touched on the possibility of partnering and the opportunity of partnering with government and private stakeholders to strengthen health systems. For example, partnerships with traditional leaders to combat teenage pregnancy myths. And the all-encompassing highlight in the quote said, viruses know no borders. Our preparedness must reflect this. Challenges identified. Stigma and discrimination. LGBTQIA plus individuals report frequent misgendering in healthcare. For example, MSMs in 6th District noted a 50% stigma rate during healthcare visits. The key question here is, how can healthcare be transformed into a truly inclusive space? We are 30 years into democracy, we are still fighting stigma. This must end. Teenage pregnancy. Underfunded community in Tabankulu. and challenges, including programs. For example, the exit program for sex workers lack resources for housing and skill training. We cannot seek someone to leave sex work without giving them a space to land. Lessons learned and best practices, youth engagement. They touched on youth-friendly health zones and their impact in increasing trust and service uptake. For example, the peer-led clubs that were mentioned, which tailor messages for young women in Buffalo City, and community-led solutions, grassroots programs like Unmute Me, Amplified LGBTQIA, and Voices in Healthcare Settings. Storytelling for change, stories from survivors, reshape program priorities in Beyond Zero safe spaces. Community voices are the loudest when we let them lead the conversation. And on innovation and impact, there are tailored campaigns which are trying to raise awareness and raise the rate of testing. I'll just go over that and move to the actionable items, which I think is key. Okay. The actionable item suggested was that we need to expand safe spaces, increase the number of youth zones and MSM-friendly services across provinces, to invest in SBCC campaigns, design culturally relevant and evidence-based campaigns, enhance cross-sector partnerships, and scale up resources for implementers. Best practices for community health interventions, community-led dialogues were mentioned, and also gender-inclusive approaches. So I'm going to just go over the objectives of the workshop before I close against the implementation through the sessions. The dissemination of best practices was evident in the sessions, which developed practical and effective intervention models, tools, approaches, and adjustable strategies. Capacity development was evident as well in the sessions where they were driving and facilitating HIV, TB, and STI preparedness. To foster collaboration, the objective was evident in the sessions and breakaways that aimed to develop opportunities and platforms for networking. To promote human rights and advocacy and drive implementation was also evidence in the session, which highlighted all-encompassingly the need to facilitate the development of action plans and CBO. And as closing reflections, I will quote Dr. Gaga again when she said, "Our work doesn't end here. It begins anew with every community we touch." The call to action is that we need to use these lessons that we learned here in this conference to innovate and drive impactful change in your communities. Thank you so much.
Right. Can I round of applause, please? The way time is going, even round of applause is chowing time. All right, we have the Deputy Chairperson of the Civil Society in the Eastern Cape. Can you quickly come in these 2 minutes and 30 seconds, give us closing remarks? I know that the Chairperson, Mr. Melikaya, Comrade Melikaya, is busy with the build-up activities, hence the Deputy Chair. Over.
Thanks, Program Director. Good morning, everyone. I'm Reverend Mzokolo Kapoyana. I'm the second Deputy Chairperson of the Civil Society in the province. I'll be brief. I was given 4 pages of the speech of the closing remarks, but I'll be brief. Comrades or colleagues, it has been such an honor to be part of this wonderful event. On behalf of the Eastern Cape Civil Society Forum, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, the ones that are coming from outside the province and those who are coming far as in the site of the Alfred and Zo. I know that you have traveled a long journey to be here. Sincere thanks to the head of various departments who handled the event throughout, a wide range of applause, and thanks to all the participants who made the event a memorable one. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us making this event a grand success. As you are heading back home, I'm reminded on the scripture of the book of Mark, for those who have the Bible. verse 35, let us cross over to the other side of lake. As you are going back home, take that verse with you and make sure that you arrive safely. Thank you, Program Director.
If we can all summarize our 4 pages that way, we are good to go. We are good to go. Colleagues, you have been a wonderful audience. I might not come back to give any announcement because I don't have any now. I want to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Gaga to come and do the official closing for this workshop. And we, from my side, as the program director and the other program director, Dumo, we have done well. Can you clap for us, please? Yeah. Okay, and specifically for me, can you clap again just for me? Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ntul. And yeah. Thank you. Over to you, SG. She danced on day 1. She can also dance. We're saving time now.
Yeah, good to Gwangu. Good, is it still morning? Good morning, everybody. And thank you very much for your participation in the past 3 days. It's so heartwarming to see so many people still remaining in the room on the very last day of the conference. A round of applause to all of you. Yes, I'm going to conclude. I will touch on important issues only so that you don't miss your flights. If you miss your flights and we have to book you again, it's going to be an ineligible expense. So we can't afford that. So I will go boom, boom, boom. But whilst we are doing that, I think it's important that we reflect on our participation during these 3 days. This hotel is attached to a casino, right? Some of you didn't even see it. This hotel is attached to a mall, but I hardly saw people dashing to those areas. That's the level of interaction and intrigue that was in the room. It really struck me when I looked at that. Each time there is a session in the breakaway rooms, you would find that breakaway room full of people. Occasionally, you will see us, mainly the crew people that have got crew at the back, milling at the passages, making noise. But, most of us were in the room and engaged. And that speaks to the level of what was happening inside the rooms. I will go to day 1 quickly. Day 1 was electric. I learned so much from that session. There were 2 breakaway rooms or 3. I did not know whether to stand in the passage and listen with one ear this side and another ear that side. Because the 1 minute I will be here listening to HIV and oncology, the next minute there is a global level interaction on pandemic prevention and what. And I was like, where and how do I choose? Then we went, if I go back just to plenaries only over the 3 days. Then we went to SBCC. That was also very, very electric and informative. Then we also covered climate change. Again, that's a topical issue and really, really things that are on the pulse. We were deliberating here on issues that were coming literally hot off the press, as in 2 weeks ago, being presented in international space. So the level of these 3 days in terms of information exchange was really, really, really important. we found ourselves wanting to add more topics. I remember with mental health, we wanted to have breakaway sessions, to have in-depth interaction, but time was not allowing. I remember when we were talking about the topic of implementation science, which was a very informative session as well, thanks in absentia to Dr. Ezungu. We were torn to say, do we go implementation science? Do we go GBV? Because this is like GBV week. So these 3 days have really and truly been inspirational. If I talk on behalf of all of us, we are living here a lot more inspired than when we came in. Let me go to the bureaucrats and the leadership. The MEC came here. You could see when she was in the room that she is between meetings, but she made time to come and honor you. So that on its own, when you go back to your areas, and a doc from Limpopo, you end up without disbursement, just think about this session and calm down. Because we are acknowledged for the work that we're doing on the ground. People are picking up on the good that we are doing. Gokshila, she's not in the room. Yes, as you are walking in, Gokshila, you made a Beyond Zero team remember that we belong to a bigger group. You made us remember that despite all the turmoil, we are seen. That was very reassuring. We had lots and lots of discussions that were coming from the abstracts. And I want to single out 2 people that started the trouble when it comes to abstracts. Good Dr. Ndunapa, good Dr. Mchali Appa. For the past 2 or 3 weeks, they were interacting with implementers, sifting, going through, mentoring people, making sure that they come in today. The mentees were exceptionally impressive. People kept on nudging and asking for more from them, asking for support to say, I've never done this before. Can I have a dry run? So the morning of yesterday, from about 7 until the tracks started, people were sitting there rehearsing. So what you saw here as confidence, it was not by sheer luck. People worked, people were given information, people absorbed that information and hung onto it. Hey, kwayiwa kwi-marketplace, dane nerves, xa kuqala eza jive zalapha. Nalamculo ndathi bawo imali yase-Global Fund. Akuzuthiwa sithathe imali yase-Global Fund sajiva ngayo, kuthiwa ineligible the whole workshop. It was my first experience. I've always seen it on videos, on podcasts, but being part of that, it said these programs are for young people. They are not meant for us, conservative people. And interestingly, the messaging that was going on in that room, innovations, people were displaying their awards, the podcast was informative, interactive, but in a mode that is relaxed, that is electric. People were happy. That for me was one of the highlights. A big round of applause to the comms team on that. I want to re-emphasize this one. As HIV implementers, program implementers, we always talk about retention in care, isn't it? Did we have retention of people in the room throughout the 3 days? Like hell yes. Probably 95% retention in the room. We cannot forget, in conclusion, to say where to from here. Remember, we had said initially, we are not here to come and look at each other, be happy, have muffins, and go home. Do you remember that? Even now, that still holds. We may not be immediately aware of what next, but please, every network that you did here, use it when you leave. You had an interaction with Koteka, you had an interaction with Charlies of this world, you had interaction with all the academics in the room. Before I forget, the moderators, guys, you were world class. I would come in some of these tracks and hear how you introduce the topic. I was like, are we back in Canada? At the Canada conference, where and what is really happening here? A round of applause to the moderators, guys. Yeah. Back to next steps. Use the networks. People that were here were chosen for a reason. So make sure that now that you know Kokshila, keep a number. When you go back to your CPO and there are challenges that are coming up, use that resource. That's why we're all here in the room. You want to go and do your masters, or you want advice, here are the academics. There are lots of them in the room. So use those networks. But most importantly, as this collective, we must be able to say, where to from here? How do we take this community-based research approach and make sure that we are capacitating more people as we contribute to the research agenda in the country? The issue of publications for me is a pet topic. People in the world do not know that we are in this room today. They will only know if we publish. It doesn't matter what type of publication it is. It can be a case study, but people need to hear and see what we all saw here today. In that long conclusion, for me, it's to say, as Beyond Zero, we are humbled by your experience, by your presence in the room, the experience that you have left in all the people in this room, coming from Limpopo, Free State, Eastern Cape, and Farm, is never going to be forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, SG, and thanks for thanking me as well. Colleagues, it's now a networking session. As we are waiting for our shuttles, we can do what they had closing remarks. We network, we exchange numbers. You take our numbers, and we take yours. Then we move forward. I'm also told that please do not delete the app, because we're going to load all the pictures on the app. And then, Tato, did you also say the presentations? And the presentations. We're going to load everything on the app and my number on the app for all purposes. Right. So otherwise, I think that is the DJ can play us soft music while we're having a networking session. Those that are leaving, please keep checking the schedule and check the registration site if your shuttle has arrived, so that we should not be left behind. With all that said, is lunch now? Huh? It's lunch. Oh, we're also told that you can network as well during lunchtime. Yeah. So otherwise, DJ, you can play us soft music as we move towards lunch and like that. Dr. Kulfeld, thank you very much for coming. We truly appreciate that you are here. You're from the far end of the country. Thank you, colleagues.